Hello guys, it's me Samuel13. Just want to do a video about why manga is actually better than anime. It's a very hard subject, and obviously a lot of people will like anime more, so it would probably be better to say what anime has above manga first, so I don't sound like a crazy person. Main thing everyone obviously says is animation, the fact that it's animated, because obviously people without imagination can't really look at two pictures and imagine an epic fight, but in an anime it's all there for you to look at. But then there's also colour, but nowadays there are a few like fan projects to colorify a few manga, so that's not always like a really good thing. Plus sometimes they always give like anime characters really dumb colours, but that's nothing really. Another thing that makes anime quite good is music, because when you're reading a manga, unless like again you have really good imagination, you can't exactly think of any sounds. And when you're talking about fantasy or sci-fi like aliens and all that, you don't know what sounds they're making. Doesn't matter how they write it, you probably can't tell how the writer or the manga artist or whatever wants you for it to sound, but in the anime, yeah. But despite all that, there's actually quite a lot better about manga. First of all, there's even a better thing graphics wise, and it's not just the violence stuff and the censorship, which I'll talk about in a second. It's the consistency. Basically, it's only gonna be noticeable in a few series like Bleach or One Piece, is that when you read a manga, it's obvious that the artist is going to get better after a while. But if you look at the first episode of One Piece and compare it to one of the newer ones, it goes from like 4:3, which is like a box, to 16:9. So the quality is just insanely different, and I don't see them being like remade at all. So you can watch the first episode of like One Piece and you can get kind of put off because of how old it seems, because technically it is old. I've watched older, but I can still get put off because I'm used to what I'm watching now. But when you read a manga, that's not the case. You can start One Piece from the beginning and that's it. No, I will probably be using One Piece a lot as examples because it's just easier. It's not the only one I've read, it's just easier. And there's also another thing that comes from like One Piece, probably be good for, is as well as all this other stuff, there's censorship. Let's start with that. No matter when an anime is made, there is always censorship. Doesn't matter how like small it is or big it is, it just happens to be there. For some reason, it doesn't matter what kind of thing it is, there just always happens to be some sort of limiter on it. I don't know why. It's a bit pointless in my opinion, especially when it's used on like, let's say, a horror anime. I mean, there's cases when it makes sense, like Ario no Kishi, or Night of the Air as it's called in English, where the scene where the main character gets in an accident and ends up with a pole through his chest, which is kind of the beginning of the anime, story. That makes sense because really it's a football story. It's a story about football. So having a scene where the guy gets a pole for his chest, it would be a bit awkward to show that, because that would ramp up the rating of the entire anime, and that's just pointless to do that. No reason to do that if you don't need to. But then there's other censorship where it's just a bit dumb, or for some reason you just aren't thought that it's like a good thing. I don't know why. One being that, like One Piece again, a lot of the fights are a bit more bloody than you think, and a certain character, let's say a really strong character at some point gets attacked, and he gets a lot more damage than you'd think, than the anime tells you. A lot more damage, and you see it. And there's other times where censorship just goes insane, or they just end an anime early. One example lately would be Akame ga Kill, or the Kakiru, or whatever. I like anime, but I just can't pronounce Japanese at all. Basically, they ended that early. They sort of made up an ending, but one of the main problems is a character dies in the anime, which doesn't actually die in the manga. They're kind of just gone for a little while. So as soon as they did that, they kind of screwed themselves over, and they ended up having to end the anime before the actual manga ended, because the manga is actually still going now. And then there's I think it's called Needless or something. It's basically, it's got a story to it, but it's practically built around fan service. So a lot of people don't look at it. Like, I actually went to look at it, not because I like fan service, I actually hate fan service. So I thought, oh, I bet this will be shit. It's just I watched the anime because someone got me to watch it, and the way it ended, I felt that there was something a bit funny about it, something wrong. So I read the manga and realised that just after where it was forced to end in the anime, the main character ends up cross-dressing as his sister. And while that doesn't exactly sound awkward at all, considering how many trap characters there are, there's also the fact that this is a manga with fan service in it. And at the moment I have not seen or read anything where they've purposely used a trap character as fan service. Or at least I probably won't ever choose to. But that's the case. And then there's also all these OVAs and ONAs, which are basically a few episodes of something that would have been cool to exist. I mean, now sometimes they get picked up and proper series get made, because I believe Death Billiards was one where they made one part. It was basically one part of a whole thing, and then they made an anime of the rest of the episodes and made it one whole big thing. But then there's cases like Angel Densetsu, I think it's called that, where it's basically just 2 episodes and that's it. There's no anything to it. Because I've read that manga, it's actually quite good. I would actually recommend it, but the anime was so old that I never see it getting remade at all. That's one of the major problems. If an anime fails, it usually doesn't get remade. The only case where I can think of something getting remade was Fullmetal Alchemist. But that's because the anime went so far off from the manga, it just had to happen. Plus it was popular as well. And then there was Hunter x Hunter. It's not exactly that it was bad, it's just that they started, I think it was dubbing it or something at some point, and they just turned around and went, no, you just start from the beginning. And that happened. But most of the time, if something fails, that's it. So say goodbye to a full Akame ga Kill anime because they screwed that up. Say goodbye to like the full Soul Eater. All the other stuff that just got screwed over because anime companies are a bit lazy. But enough of that, there is actually more stuff, more extras that a manga has that a anime does not. Although some anime do try and fix that, which is little like pages other than the actual story. An example would be One Piece's front page stories and the little things at the back where the questions to the author get answered. First of all, the front page stories, they're basically little tiny stories about characters that aren't exactly important. Sometimes it's just a little picture of the Straw Hats, but sometimes it's showing you what happens to the villains after they get beaten by the Straw Hats. And really, it's not important at all, but it is actually quite interesting. I mean, it's not like you're gonna suddenly feel sorry for them or anything, but it's just it's a good thing to have. You learn stuff that wasn't actually in the manga at all. Especially with the questions, you learn really dumb stuff. Like the fact that yes, Luffy can stretch his dick. Yes, Mr. One can turn his into a sword. Yes, a load of people ask that sort of question to him. I mean, it's hilarious. They literally do. That used to be a common question, really. If they can turn their body into something, they'll probably ask if their you-know-what can do it. It's hilarious. And that's really about it. I mean, I could say that there's a lot of manga that hasn't been turned into anime yet, so there's a lot of stories that are quite good, that are worth reading, that you can't like watch. But then again, there's quite a lot of anime that is either not based on anything or is based on light novels, like let's say Log Horizon or RE0, where I can't really be bothered to read a light novel at all. I mean, I've read books before, but you just can't really get pictures out of a light novel, so it's great that there's an anime adaptations of that. There is, of course, one final thing that makes manga better, is speed. It's not that you're going to get more chapters out of than a manga if you're like reading it while it's brand new. But if you just if you read like a manga that was finished compared to an anime that was finished, you could read probably the entire manga in a day or more, just depending on how long it was. I finished Gash Bell the other day. Manga I loved. If I'd watched the anime, I'd probably be hardly anywhere. And I'm already halfway through something called Siren. That's another thing I was watching. I mean reading, my god, why do I keep doing that? Siren's like a manga only one, so then there's One Piece, which I'm currently reading, well, and watching, but I'm currently catching up with the manga as well because of obviously the censorship stuff. And last of all the animes, Angel Densetsu, that's another one I watched. There's a load that I've been watching. In fact, there's a new one at the moment about a guy that gets seemingly killed and then gets turned into a slime. Like the slime's got like these two overpowered like abilities that makes him like stupidly powerful. That's something interesting, that's quite new. It's got 11 chapters. Can't remember what it's called. Might put in the comments. And yeah, that's about it before the video gets like a few centuries long. If you like this kind of stuff, and if I can actually not drag on for so long, maybe give it a like or share it or something, and I will see you next time. Also, I think I'll choose a game that I'm actually good at, not just a game that I like.